The law is the sum total of all the laws of nature and of life, the constant relations of matter, motion, and consciousness, expressive of the nature of primordial matter and of omnipotent, inexhaustible, eternally dynamic primordial force, acting in its blind way in the imperturbable and inevitable constant relations of nature and life. Of this law, science has not yet explored more than an infinitesimal fraction. There are laws in everything, and everything is expressive of law. The gods themselves are subject to the law. Omnipotence is possible only through absolutely faultless application of the laws in their entirety. In primordial matter, the chaos of the ancients, there are no laws manifest. They only appear in connection with the compositions of the atoms in the cosmos. The further the limits of subjective and objective consciousness are extended, the more laws are discovered. Only the monads of the highest divine kingdom have knowledge of all the laws of the universe and are able to apply them correctly with unfailing precision. Laws of nature concern matter and motion. Laws of life concern the consciousness aspect. The laws of life, most important to mankind, are the laws of freedom, unity, development, self-realization, destiny, reaping, and activation. The law of freedom says that every monad is its own freedom and its own law, that freedom is gained by law, that freedom is the right to individual character and activity within the limits of the equal right of all. Curiosity as to the consciousness life of others is a serious mistake. The law of unity says that all monads make up a unity and that every monad for super-individual consciousness expansion must realize its unity with all life. The law of development says that all monads develop their consciousness, that there are forces acting in different ways toward the final goal of life. The law of self says that every monad must itself acquire all the qualities and abilities requisite for omniscience and omnipotence, for the human kingdom onwards, understanding of laws and the responsibility following upon this. The law of destiny indicates what forces influence the individual in consideration of necessary experiences. The law of reaping says that all the good and evil we have initiated in thoughts, feelings, words, and deeds are returned to us with the same effect. Every consciousness expression has an effect in manifold ways and entails good or bad sowing, which will ripen and be reaped sometime. The law of activation says that individual development is possible only through self-initiated consciousness activity. A more detailed account of the laws of life is given in The Philosopher's Stone by Laurency. Those most important for the individual are the laws of freedom, unity, self, and activation, especially the first two. The laws of life make possible the greatest possible freedom and unerring justice for all. Freedom, or power, is the individual's divine, inalienable right. It is acquired through knowledge of the law and through unfailing application of the laws. Freedom, or power, and the law are the conditions for each other. Development implies activity applied with finality in accordance with the law. Otherwise, the cosmos would degenerate into chaos. In monads of repulsive basic tendency, development can take the wrong course, this becoming manifest already in parasitism of plant life and the predacity of animal and human life. Unconscious and, to a still higher degree, conscious encroachment upon the monad's eternally inalienable, inviolable divine freedom, limited by the equal right of all life, results in the struggle for existence and the cruelty of life. Life is joy, happiness, bliss in the mental and all higher worlds. Suffering is found only in the three lower regions of the physical and emotional worlds. Evil is all mistakes as to the law, especially the repulsive tendency, hatred, in all its innumerable forms. All good and evil that befalls the individual is his own work, the result of his own application of his limited conception of right and wrong. All reap what they have sown in previous lives, and often in the same life. Nothing can happen to the individual which he has not deserved by defying the law. Quote-unquote human dual nature appears in the conflict between man's quote, higher and lower self, end quote, between the inevitable causal ideals of causal consciousness, which ideals the individual will be able to realize sooner or later, and quote-unquote imperfect personality in the incarnation envelopes, the qualities that the monad has acquired at the lower stages. It is part of the complete experience of life that the self will eventually have had every bad quality and reaped the consequences. Man learns, though incredibly slowly, from his own experiences and by reaping what he has sown. Man goes on incarnating until he has learned all he is to learn and reaped unto the last grain of what he has sown. The higher the stage of development a being has attained, the greater the effect of its mistakes as to the law, and the greater the effect of the wrong done to it. Injustice in any respect whatsoever is absolutely precluded, and the talk about it is a manner of speech of the ignorant and envious. Ignorance, lawlessness, sovereign arbitrariness go together. According as man attains ever higher levels, he sees the necessity and finality of law, tries to gain knowledge of laws of nature and of life, and also strives to acquire the ability of rationally applying what he knows. When he can do this, man is not only learned, but also wise. Ignorance thinks that it can be lawless, refused to gain knowledge of laws of nature and laws of life, and apply them correctly. Nature's law of cause and effect, life's law of sowing and reaping, gradually teaches the ignorant and the most defiant to life, by means of innumerable painful experiences, what is rational and necessary. The ignorant must be taught the inevitability of law, and the unwilling not to encroach on the equal right of all. All moralists, Pharisees of the Gospels, infringe the laws of freedom and unity by their constant violations of the individual's personal inviolability, their slanderousness, domineering attitudes, intrusion into the sanctity of privacy. The individual has life's divine right to be what he is, with all his failings, faults, and vices, to think, to feel, to say, and to do what he sees fit, as long as he does not thereby infringe the equal right of others to that same inviolable freedom. At mankind's present stage of development, understanding of the individual's right to absolute integrity is lacking. How others lead their lives is not our concern, and all judgments are great mistakes. At least the so-called esotericians should understand this, but it will apparently be some time before they have learned not to meddle in other people's business. It is part of the ability to be silent. Human legal and social systems will continually be changed until the finally elaborated legal system agrees with the laws of life, the development and goal of life.